G'day, it's Lindsay Waddington here, and welcome to another episode of Did You Know with Waddo. And today it's very special because I've always liked a practical joke and I don't mind a bit of comedy. And we've got one of the pioneers and one of Australia's funniest men you'll ever find and one of the greatest comics in the world, a great mate and a big legend, Mr. Col Elliott. How you going, mate?
Mate, that's $10 worth of intro. That's definitely $10 worth. I love that. Can I pinch that? That's great.
I reckon we can use it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
I have to say, Col, thank you for coming down and making the time. I know you're still a busy man and you're loved by so many around the world, mate. It's great to have you here and a part of this.
Thank you so much, mate. Yeah, it's given me a good life. It's given me a great life.
It's great. Let's start with a few things, buddy, and let's tell a few people around the world, which we're lucky to have following us on YouTube and all our platforms. So where did it all start, mate? Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Orpington in Kent in UK. I come out here, I was 18 months old. And so I didn't, all I ever knew was how to be an Aussie. My mum talked like that. She, hello, love, you all right then, So, and it was funny, it was not 1951. So after the war, everybody migrated to Australia, and around us we had Uncle Bill next door who told her, hello, Col, you're all right then, son, So I listened to all these accents, and up the road, Mr. Mac, and he said, hello, Colin, where you doing, son? How you doing? And there was Scottish people, and then the little guy up the road who, he was Italian bloke, he really nice bloke, he talked like that one. And I just listened to all these kids. And when I got to school, I thought, gee, these Aussie kids are funny. I listened, we had Aussie kids around, but there was a big multicultural thing after the war. And beautiful sense of humour. I love English sense of humour. And my old man had spent 20 years in the Navy. He was in Dunkirk. My mum was in the Land Army. In London and in the Blitz. So, and she was lovely. She had she came out, her sisters came out with their husbands, and so we migrated to Australia. So I always thought of myself as an Australian, but when I went back to London, I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Was it work that brought the family out here, Col? Was it work or no, just a change of life?
It was a change of life. I think, they were rebuilding London. There was a lot of immigration in those days too. Australia, I know I really laughed. It was very funny. I had a good mate of mine who's Italian, right? And we joined the Navy together when we were 16. And he was telling me the other day, he says his old man couldn't speak really good English, and he thought he'd signed a form to say he was going to America. So he landed in Australia. He said, hey, where are we? But we know, and it just reminded me of that. I go off on tangents, sorry, Waddo. But Big Julie, a good mate of mine, and we've been mates since we were 16. We joined the Navy together. But they were all different races, and I integrated with all those people and love them to bits, just love it. And I still have a lot of that around me,
So that's important. Like you got into the Navy.
Yep.
And was that because of your parents being in the Defence Forces? And that's something you felt strongly about?
My man was a pretty tough dude, and he didn't come out of the war really good. He died very early. He was 49. He sort of he got into the grog, gave himself a bit of a hide, and so he gave us a hard time. So I left home at I was away a lot at 14. I was working in the stables, and I was a separator. I used to separate the poop from the straw. And I worked with the horses, and I did that, and then I saw a magazine that said join the Navy, and I joined the Navy. I had a couple of jobs, but I joined the Navy at 16, and I went to Perth with 15 and 16-year-old kids. They don't do it anymore because there was a lot of bastardisation at the time, and it was a pretty tough call. But I did that, and I spent a year at HMAS Lewin in Perth, and they taught you all the naval stuff. Plus, we went back to school, did all that. I went to sea when I was 17, and I was on the Sydney, which was a troop carrier. I was on there for a couple of months, and then they were short a couple of crew for Vietnam, and they sent me to Vietnam.
How old?
17.
Wow.
And I was sent to, no one asked me how old I was. They just said,
really?
Elliott and Anderson and Elliott, me and my mate, and we were both 17.
Wow.
So I was the youngest on board the HMAS Hobart, and she was the first Navy one that we went on loan to the Americans, 7th Fleet, and I was the youngest on board, and my job when we were up there under fire and everything was a spotter, and I used to spot where they were firing at us from. And I turned 18 3 months before I came home. But we worked in the, there's a big story, but we worked in the Gulf of Tonkin, which is North Vietnam. We used to stop them coming down, and we used to chase them into the, they used to hide, and we used to have to go in and blow them up and all that, and they'd open fire on us and all the shore batteries. So I was by the time I was 17, I was under fire, and it was pretty regular.
Any time, mate, did you think, I don't think I'm going to get home?
Yeah, a few times. We came under fire quite a bit. At one stage there, we were sent in, and our spotter planes turned around and said to us, "You've got to go in and blow up these barges." And we went in. They said, "You might come under fire from one shore battery," which meant one gun, and we thought, "Oh, that won't be too bad." So we went in there, but there were 15 of them, and they lobbed in, and I never thought we'd get out of that, and we got out. The guys behind us got hit, but we got out of that. So the closest to us that day was 10 foot off the port bow, which is like 10 foot, and so I was an exposed personnel. I had a jacket on and a helmet, and I used to have to tell them where they were firing from, but or if we could find it. But I remember them stepping in, and I thought, this is going to hit us. And the chief petty officer gunner said, "Hit the deck." I said, "I'm already down here." So I got home. So by the time I got home, I was just 18, and all my mates were still going to dances, and I was a bit shell shocked. Yeah, so it was a tough call, but it was what it was, 1967. Yeah, a long time.
The truth is, Col, it's not because you're sitting here, but it's people like you that we have the freedom and the safety of our life, and we thank you, like everybody would, and everybody like you. It's such a tough call at that age.
My brother, it was funny. My brother Ralph was
Ralphie.
Ralph, you know Ralphie. Yeah. Can I tell you, he was my merch bitch. I used to call him that. That's terrible. I'm sorry. I apologise. But Ralphie and I, no, I wouldn't apologise. We're very close. And he was in Wanra, and he was at the Battle of Coral, and he came under a lot of fire. He didn't, it's funny because I was the youngest brother, and I'd been to Vietnam, and he got called up. And when he'd done his training, all his mates turned around, were going to Vietnam, and they called him in the office, and they said, "You don't have to go." And he said, "Why?" He said, "Because your little brother's already been to Vietnam." And there's a law, I forget, the Stevens Law, is it, or something like that? There were 7 brothers on a ship during World War II that were blown. 7 brothers were killed. Mm-hmm. So they brought out a law that if you were brothers, you didn't have to do it again.
Yeah.
So they said to him, "You don't have to go." He said, "The only way you can go is you volunteer." He said, "I don't want to leave my mates." So he went, and he saw a lot, and he came back. And I picked him up off the plane when he came back, and it's pretty tough call. So the two of us, my nephew, who I'm very proud of, was a chief petty officer, clearance diver, just did 27 and a half years in the Navy as a clearance diver, done Iraq, IEDs, he dismantled that. He used to teach that, SAS, did all that. So. Yeah, we've seen a fair bit, the family.
And we won't go right into it, Col, but it had to be when you got home at such a young person, such a young age to be exposed to that sort of thing. It would have been hard to get back into normal life.
Well, Navy was never normal.
No.
I loved the Navy.
Yeah. You did love it there, mate?
I loved a lot in the Navy, but unfortunately I saw a bit too much when I was young. I did Vietnam, and I saw that, and I worked my way through it, as you have to, because you were there. That was it, and we were told what we had to do. And our skipper was. We were on loan to the Americans. We were part of the American 7th Fleet, so we went where we were told. And we had a great skipper who used to tell us, guys, we're going into action tonight. This is what's going to happen. Keep on your toes. And then we go to action station. We go in and we do it, and we get fired at. So we knew what was going to happen. It wasn't like the guys in the jungle.
Yeah.
I mean, that was tough. Navy is different, but it's still tough.
Yep.
And the problem I had in the Navy was this. When I was 19, now we're going forward a couple of years, I was on HMAS Stewart, and we were behind the Melbourne when she cut the Frankie Evans, USS Frankie Evans, in half, and there were 84 men died, and we were in the rescue boats, and I saw that, and I can't describe it.
Yeah.
So 84 men died. The guys on the HMAS Melbourne roped up the other half of the destroyer to the side, and there were guys were just it was just a mess. So we witnessed that. Back in those days, they didn't do any counselling. They said a prayer. We were there 15 hours working with them, and they said a prayer about those in the deep, all that sort of stuff, and then back to work. Everybody went, oh. So every creak you heard after that, so it wasn't good. So I witnessed that, and before that, when just off Vietnam, on my 18th birthday, this was 29th of July 1967.
Yep.
The USS Forrestal blew up, and that was an aircraft carrier that we were using their aircraft with, a rocket slid along, hit all this ammunition, blew it up. Many lives were lost. 134 men died, and we were sent in to help. And it was carnage. So I witnessed that too. So after 7 years in the Navy, I think I'm a jinx. I ended up at HMAS Cerberus as a recruit school instructor, and I taught out of tie knots, basic seamanship, basic navigation, and all the best bars to go to in Singapore and Hong Kong. And so after that, I was 23 years old, and I left the Navy. I thought I'd had enough.
Do you reckon?
But I did this sort of stuff in the Navy.
I was going to say, do you reckon that's how you sort of coped with it?
Yes.
That's why you're such a funny bugger. Like, you look at the lighthearted side of every story, and that would have been nearly therapy for yourself as well as your mates around you.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I do a character on stage called Chuka Dennis, who's my roadie, and Chuka's not, and he's got this distinctive voice, and. When I was in the Navy, I didn't call him Chuka, but I had the voice, and I used to walk down the mess and I'd say, "So what's going on today, chaps?" And it was a terrible thing, And I used to. There was I'll tell the story quickly as I can. There was a sub-lieutenant who just joined the ship, first time at sea, young guy, like 20, and I'd been in the Navy from ages by then. And I went up and I said to the guy, I think I might do the voice on him. And they said, "Oh, don't." I said, yeah, what's this? So walking, "Hello, sir, welcome to the Navy. I hope you have a really this is a great ship, sir. I just want to introduce all my boys. Will you wave? These are the boys from the quarterdeck. Sir, welcome to the steward." And he's going, "Oh, how long have you been in the Navy?" "I've been in the Navy. Well, actually, sir, what happened, my mother took a boarder in, so I lost my bunk. So, here I am." And I did this to this guy for months.
Yeah.
And it got that bad that it was happening. And every time I saw him, I say, "Good evening," and he'd try and walk away. "Did you see the flying fish today, sir?" Anyway, we were overseas in the Far East, in Singapore, Hong Kong, Bangkok, around there. Anyway, my divisional officer, who was in charge of me, called me down to his office, and he said, "Elliott," he said, what are you doing to Sub-Lieutenant so-and-so? He said, he's in the wardroom saying there's this crazy guy that shouldn't be in the Navy. He's not really... And he said, what were you doing? About a funny... What is it? And I said, I was just welcoming him, sir. And he laughed and laughed, and he said, keep going with it. So we kept it going for 2 months, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, terrible.
Oh.
Yeah. And sometimes at sea, you would be on the bridge. Yeah. And he was the officer on the bridge that night, and I was with him, just unfortunately. And at 6 a.m, you have to do call the hands, you know, which means wakey, 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 dress of the day, numbers, you know, and all that. They tell you the rest of the day and the numbers. And so at 6 in the morning, I said, I'll just get the crew up. No, I'll do it. No, sir, no, it's my job, sir. Wakey, 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 call the hands, call the hands, call the hands. Dress of the day, number 10. What are those little blue shorts we wear, sir? You know, it kept going. So the whole ship knew about it, including the skipper. They knew I was a bit of a clown, and it got me through. Humour always got me through. I loved it. And I played in the bars in Singapore and Hong Kong. I used to write songs like, Who Put the Sand in the Vaseline? You'll never see a roof rack on a hearse. And I used to play in the bars in Singapore and Hong Kong for free beer. And my mates and I started a band we called the New Neesoon City Ramblers Jug and Jazz Band. And I used to do stand-up to the Yanks or the Poms or whatever, and loved it. And so when I got out, I morphed into it,
So when you left the Navy, Col, straight into the comedy?
Well, it wasn't as easy as that. I finished, I knew that I had to get out of the Navy because I'd seen so much and I loved it. I loved the camaraderie, still got great mates who are still, I love the Navy. But I knew I needed to do something else and I wanted to do this, but there was a transition to get to that. And I was out of the Navy 6 weeks and I'll tell you, I was drinking pretty heavy.
Yep.
And I think when I come back from Vietnam, I was drinking heavy. I was a drunk. Anyway, so I decided one night to go and see this girl, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got behind the wheel, which I shouldn't have done. Anyway, cut a long story short, on the way back, I clipped a car, hit a pole, I broke my jaw. I broke my skull. I had a fractured skull. I had 97 stitches in my head, and I had one sideboard. Just one. The rest of the hair was shaved, and I'd smashed my teeth. There's a little cat there. I smashed my. I was a mess. 6 weeks out of the Navy, and I had no money. And I woke up 3 days later. I was in a coma. 3 days later, I woke up. I thought, I can't talk. Anyway, I cut a long story short. I had a job to go to overseas with Oceanographic Survey because he used to do sonar work. And I had a job that I was going to go to and try out. And I went round to Jimmy's place, my mate, who's I was just talking to me the other day. Jimmy is lead guitarist in a band, and there was a show on television. Was it Go Show or something like that? Anyway, Jimmy was playing with the band, and he come round to get me, and I was at my sister's in a dressing gown. I was a real mess, and Jim come and got me. He said, "Do you want to watch the band do a rehearsal?" I said, "Yeah, I come around." And I sat there, and in walked this beautiful blonde lady with the bass player's girlfriend. And she sat next to me, and I looked at her and I thought, oh, this is beautiful, And her name was Karen. And 51 years later, we're still married. But I looked at her and she looked at me, she said, "What happened to you?" And I pulled my hat off and she went, "Oh." I said, "And I can't smile now, but when I can, it's a fantastic smile." She thought I was a nut. I met Kaz there.
And you've confirmed it over the last 50 odd years.
51 years. We've got 3 daughters. We've got 8 grandchildren. I always say I've got 3 kids, one of each. She's an absolute wonderful lady, and she's very gifted. She's an artist, but she's put up with me for a lot of years. And unfortunately, our business is bloody tough because she was at home bringing the kids up, and I was on the road. The kids were calling me uncle. You know what the worst one? This is true. Cassie now is 34. We got 4 little girls. Yeah. She's got 4 little beautiful children. And when Cassie was little, she was about 5, and I'm on the road, you know. And every night I'd ring home, as you do, you know, you ring home to the kids. And I rang home and I said, "Hi, Cassie." She said, "Hello, Daddy." She said, "Oh, me and Rebecca painted you a picture today." I said, "Oh, that's beautiful. What did you paint?" And we gasped back. Yeah. And then all of a sudden she said, "Daddy, do you want to speak to Mummy?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Mum, Col Elliott's on the run." On the phone. I went, oh. I sat in my motel room. I thought, I've got to change this life. But it was, I've
got to say, Cassie, we think that this is the daughter. Like, I was lucky enough to open one of Col's shows.
No, that was my eldest daughter.
Was it eldest
daughter?
Oh, now this
Kimbo,
is, like, I've got to explain that, like, I love comedy and I do comedy, and this man is an idol. Like, he's one of the pioneers, one of the greatest comics, as we've said. But
it's $20 now.
But when we were at the show, so Col rings up and says, "Mate, do you want to open up and do a half an hour?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And then I'm going, "Why do I say that?" You know what I mean? Like, open up for a Col Elliott show. And so we go around there, and I can remember I'm in the dressing room, Ralphie's there, you're there, and you're sort of saying, "So you do this, and then I'll come on, and then we'll do this." And and the daughter, this person comes around the corner and says, "Lindsay Waddington?" I go, "Yeah." And she said, "I've heard you're supposed to be funny. You better make me laugh." And turned around and walked off. Oh, you can imagine me nervous because I'm doing this with you, and I'm like, oh, no. So I went out and did it. Anyway, at the end, it went good, the show. Obviously, you're great and that, but come back and she comes out, "That was fantastic. Great show." She said, "You were funny." She said, "Hi, I'm Col's daughter." And I thought, and I didn't know whether you set me up or whether she set me up, but it got me.
Oh, she said, "Terrible." I said, "Yeah."
I don't drink. I went straight to the bar. Double scotch, please.
But I think that, my
So it's in the whole family, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Jodie, Kim is just, she's shocking. Yeah. She's shocking. She's got a great sense of humour. Both girls, or three of the girls, all got a good sense of humour. Our youngest daughter, Cassie, she's a speech and drama teacher. She teaches dancing. She's, she's at, I think this year she's doing Movie World, the Christmas thing, and she teaches acting, and she's been in movies and all that. And they've all got a great sense of humour, and they.
And I know family's so special. You do, I've been privy to see you've got one of the closest families, and it's a credit to you, mate, both of you and Kaz, like, in such a hard game.
Oh, it's a very hard game.
A very hard game, but that's a credit to you. But let's move through.
I've toured with a lot of people, and I've watched it, and I thought, gee, some of them, I don't know if I want to do this.
I don't want to end up like that.
Yeah. But, go on.
We'll move on, and I tell you what, you've had Are You Bloody Mug? Now, that would have had to been the start of Col Elliott as a massive, iconic figure.
Yeah, it did. I won't do the whole thing, but I did did this piece. It was about, and I did explain it. This is an Italian who came to Australia. He'd been here 3 days, and his first social outing was a game of Aussie Rules football. And so he went, and he thought the umpire's name was "Hi, you bloody mug. He's the bloke who owns the ball." And it just took off. Yeah. And radio picked it up. I was doing a bit of television, Mike Walsh shows, and all the rest of it, and the Penthouse Club, and all those wonderful people who gave me a break in that. And Bert was a great mate. He pushed it, Ernie Sigley, all those, and they all did it on radio.
We miss that a bit these days, don't we? Those TV shows for the talent.
Well, we had variety shows, and I used to, and I loved them. I loved them. And,
but the audiences did.
Oh, they did too. But we don't have that now. It's all gone. So I got a good break. I did 12 years on the Mike Walsh show. I used to come up there and they used to do sketches, and then Ray Martin took over and did Ray Martin's show. Then I did the everybody.
You've done everything. You've done everything. You've been on TV doing booper ads. You've been doing the face of all ads. Everything. You've been there and done it. Yeah. But let's go back to that album though. As a comic, there's singers who get platinum and gold, or gold and platinum, or multi-platinum. You did it as a comic, as a comedian. That's a pretty big thing in a time where I do believe you even had to sell the idea to your manager. I want to do an album.
Yeah.
A comedy album.
It was a corny sort of album, but for its day, it was okay. I'm just trying to think of the name. I'm getting old. There was I took it to a company. And Ron Tudor, festival. It was a festival. And I went to Ron, and I had a meeting with Ron, and I said, I've got this album, I'm going to, and he said, oh, Col, it won't work. And I said, why is that, Ron? He said, no, you're up against Mondo Rock. And I said, I'm a comedian. I said, what do you mean? Well, not Mondo Rock. And he said, no, we couldn't do that, Col, it won't work. Well, I went with EMI grabbed it, I went with it, they turned it, it went gold, it went platinum, and I'm getting presented on the TV. And to Ron Tudor, he rings me up and he says, Col, I'm glad you never listened to me. Well done, mate. I'm so pleased. And I said, Ron, thank you so much, mate. He said, mate, well done. Because nobody had released a proper album. I mean, Johnny Garfield, a great Sydney comic, had tapes out and stuff like that. But no one had really pushed for an album and charted and done something that was like that, and it worked, and on the basis of that, I built.
Well, you've been a benchmark, and like comics have looked up, and comedians and that, and like some of the greatest of today have said, like they've had jobs and that, as you said before, and now with that sort of thing, though, Col, it's amazing when you watch your show and you look at your catalogue of stuff, because then you come out with something like Hankies from Nana.
Well, Kevin Bloody Wilson wrote that.
I know, and one of the greatest tearjerkers.
Mate, he did, and he rang me and he said, Col, because he knows, and every year, I've got to give Kev this, every year he sends me a thing, thank you for your service, mate, because he knows I'm a vet. And he wrote that for me, and he said, mate, this is for the vets. And I thought, oh, I love this, so I recorded it, and it went crazy. And I always give him credit. He's a great writer.
Check it out. It's a great song.
There's a lot more than bloody Hey Santa Claus. but anyway, he very, very clever man. So Kev, and it's funny, he's a couple of years older than me.
Yeah.
He started, I think he was 39 or 37 when he started. And he knew me before he was Kevin Bloody Wilson, before we were still Dennis.
He was a country singer with Rick and Thel and all that. That's incredible.
Picking and singing. Yeah. And then he thought of Kevin Bloody Wilson, and away he went.
Oh, and genius.
Unbelievable. Yeah, gone.
Yeah.
There was I was very lucky, because in an era that I lived in, Bernie, like my manager, love you, Bern.
Yeah, great
Bern, we were 37 years together. And we went everywhere. And he put me on with Frankie Lane.
Yeah.
I toured with Frankie Lane, Max Bygraves, Matt Munro, Tom T. Hall, all dogs and children. Yeah. And I love Tom. And I used to visit him in the States. And
there was a huge respect between you and Tom. Like, he was one of the greatest wordsmiths.
He was.
But he actually could see around all the rubbish that you wrote. And he could see there was a real genius in the writing of your stuff too.
Thank you for that. He said to me, Col, I'm known as a storyteller. He said, but you're a storyteller too.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was so inspiring. And because I had such an interest in the Civil War, and he used to write about that, and I sent him Banjo Patterson stuff over. And then when I went to the States, we'd all get together, him and I and Bernie, and he'd take me around to some of the old, plantations with the slaves and all that history.
Yeah.
And so he was just the nicest guy. I love Tom. From him to TomJones, I toured with Tom, and
what was that like?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
The women just loved him, didn't they?
Yeah, they did too. And I said, I've got a picture I've sent you, I think. There's a picture of me and Tom holding the biggest pair of bloomers. And I had just come off stage, because every night, Tom, I'd do the show, I'd do 40 minutes or an hour or what, before Tom would come on. And I'd say every night, come on, girls. Look, hearing aids, walking, I'll take anything. Because Tom was getting all the bloody knickers, and all of a sudden one night this big pair of bloomers floated down, and I grabbed it on the end of me banjo, and I jumped on it. It's alive, it's alive. Well, Tom's on the side just laughing. I come off and I've got these after me show, and I said, Tom, look at this. And we've got a picture taken of me and Tom. And they're huge. You can go camping in them. So I said to Tom, what do we do? He said, I'll sign the crutch. So he signed the crutch. Many years later, I was in my office and they had, do you remember when they had big earthquakes in Newcastle?
Yeah.
And one of the big clubs I used to do there was really damaged, and the manager rang me up. She said, Col, we're trying to raise some money. He said, is there anything we can raffle? And I looked up and I saw these knickers. I said, I tell you what I got. So I said, I've got a picture of me and Tom Jones holding these knickers that he signed. We'll put them in a frame with the picture and say, you know, and we got $3,000.
Oh, wow, good on you.
So it was really worth it. But Tom was great. But the funniest thing, his band, all ex-Elvis Presley boys, all talking like that. How you doing, Cole? I said, I'm doing good. And when I talked to them, I would have to talk in their accent.
So they can understand it?
Because in Vietnam, I had guys who just talk like that. How you doing, Cole? I'm doing good, I'm good. You know, and I did, you know. And Bernie could never, when Bernie and I were in Nashville, he could never ring home because he said, they can't understand. And I'd say, excuse me, ma'am, could you get me a collect call to Sydney, Australia? Yeah, honey, no worries. You know, he'd say, how do you do that? You know? But anyway, I used to do the accent to these guys, and they were, half of them were ex-Elvis Presley band, you know. And they'd say, Cole, we got a problem. I said, what you got? And I'd come off stage. We got a problem. Cole, we've been sitting here listening to you on stage. Man, we don't know what the hell you talking about. You talk to me now. I understand what you're saying. As soon as you get in on the stage, man, I don't know what the hell you're saying. I said, must be the acoustics. So Tom's there crying because he knows that I'm going out and saying, g'day everybody, I'm Australian. Yeah. Then when I come off, they say, hey Cole, I say, hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good, but I won't talk to you. And they say, we're trying to work it out what the hell it is. And so the accents have always been, I love doing accents. And when you're doing comedy, if you can colour it with an accent, yeah, it's wonderful. See, little Irish fella talking like that, you know, and if you're doing the two parts of the characters, you're painting a picture.
Yeah.
So I love doing accents. Yeah, I love it.
Quick one with comedy these days. You had to have, because even with what I do, it's changed.
Oh, of course it
has. But you starting even way back before then, it's changed a lot.
Of course it has.
And now I was talking to you a couple of times, Col, which I'm lucky to be able to do. You just keep doing what you're doing, don't you?
I do, but I do write. I do write, and comedy's comedy's a work in progress.
Moving
really
with
is.
the times.
I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, we just talking about before the COVID thing, you know. And I said, oh look, you know, it's terrible. You know, I said, when that COVID thing came in, oh my God, what was I going to do? You know, I was in Greece, and I thought, and I started getting, I think I'm going to be sick. So I went to the hospital, and it was all in Greek, and I thought, what am I going to do? Then I saw a sign. It said English-speaking doctor, and I thought, geez, what a great idea. We should have that here, you know. So that's what leads you, and it's not politically correct, you know, and it's not. And then I say, and my dentist, Mr. Elliott, get your clothes off over there. I say, I'm going to change dentists, you know. I mean, it's
I'm not laughing at this.
It's not, I'm not politically correct. I never will be politically correct. And I see the funny side of it. And I think we're losing a little bit of comedy with that. Yeah. And the songs I write and the stories that I tell. I mean, oh my goodness, you know. And I sometimes, I was saying to you before, I said, you know, the kids today, I said, when we were kids, you know, they're breaking into cars now and they're stealing cars. We used to leave our doors open. And I said, these kids, I said, when I was at school, we used to get a bit of corporal punishment. I said, I remember 12 years old, a middle-aged woman at school beating me with a cane. And you've got to pay good money for that now, you know. See, that is not politically correct for a lot of people, but to me that's funny.
Oh, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. No. Bernie and I, you know, we're in New York Airport. Yeah. And one of my favourite actors of all time, when growing up, was Mickey Rooney. Now, Mickey Rooney was in National Velvet with Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah. He was Andy Hardy in the 40s. He has been and done everything. And he intrigued me, you know, and he'd been married 8 times, you know, but he was one of those actors that just intrigued me. He was a little guy, he's only 5'2", and we're walking through New York Airport, and I said to Bernie, "There's Mickey Rooney," and he said, "Where?" I said, "Over there." He said, "Oh, it is too." I said, "Oh, I'm going to go and meet him." He said, Don't. I said, "What's this?" And I went over, I said, "Hey, Mickey!" And he said, "Hey!" And I said, "Come here, man. It's so good to talk to you. Man, I haven't seen you for so long. How you doing? How's the family?" "Oh, they're good, they're good." "Oh, man, so good. I meant to call you last week, but I got to catch a plane. Give me another hug." And he's giving me another hug, and he's walked away. "I'll see you." And I said, and I went to Bernie, he said, "What are you going to?" I said, "Well, he's going to be sitting on that plane saying, 'Who the hell was that?'" I said, "But I got to hug Mickey Rooney."
Oh, I love it.
So, but I don't have any filters, unfortunately, you know. So I love that. I love those stories.
There's no malice in it.
No.
Like, you're only after a laugh. You're not you don't see race. You don't see any of that.
And I tell you what, I don't see. I don't do anything with people with any disabilities.
You have a go at me all the time.
I know. Yeah, but you've always been a disability. But no, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
I never do that sort of comedy. Doesn't grab me. And we're all different. I talked to Rodney Root, or Rodney Keft. I talked to Rod, and he's a great bloke, you know. They were different. Kev's different.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not...
Murray Fields?
Oh, I work with Murray.
Yeah.
I used to do... we did dueling banjos together, and it was as funny as buggery, you know. But I used to work with Murray many, many years ago, and I wrote some stuff for Murray, which was lovely, really? You know. And he used to do a character called Blade Bone or something. And
was that with the funny hat he wore too?
Oh, I used to, and he used to throw his jacket off as he walked and say, "I'm not coming back here." And he was a wonderful, wonderful comedian, and a song and dance man. You know, a great actor. So him and Val Gillet. And when I was very, very young, I worked at a place called Tiki and John's in Melbourne. John Newman, who they have
Draculas.
Draculas. That's
yes.
And John gave me a routine. He got me to do it on the stage, and I rewrote it. And he said to me when I left, he said, "I can't keep that. It's yours," because it was. A gardening expert, you know, "Welcome to Getting Rooted with Arthur C. Stork." It was a terrible, and I did all this, it was horrible stuff. But they were all good fun, good things, but they're not meant to embarrass anybody. I know, and people, they come to you after and say, I had such a good night, and it's a lovely feeling to watch people enjoy, you know.
I think that's what people get. Like, so the greatest thing, Col, you know, you've served our country, and we thank you for that. But also too, mate, you've helped yourself too with therapy and that, I suppose, with laugh.
Yeah.
But you've got some beautiful messages out there on a serious note, and you're a hell of a musician too, mate. You undersell it because you're such a funny bugger, but you do play banjo. I've even had you come out on stage and play harp. You play harmonica, and you love it.
I
love it.
I love all that. I don't let music interfere with me playing, but I do love my music. I play my guitar, and I enjoy it. And I do, you know, I do enjoy doing the bit of country that I do.
Yeah.
I love country music. Yeah. You know, I mean, Roger Chug-a-lug. I used to love all that. Roger Miller, as I said, poor old Jamie Davis. I love Jamie because he's a great
singer. He's a great singer too.
And I used to take him on tour with me all the time. I used to love him. I'm lucky to get him now. He's that bloody famous. But Jamie, I'd say to him, "Now I want you to do Rawhide, you know, and Frankie Lane, and he go, you know, I said, you know, "An old cowpoke went riding out one dark and windy day," and he'd start playing it, and then I'd chuckle and come out and say, "He had his mother's dress on, I think that he was gay," and he said, "Oh, don't do that," and I said, "Oh, look at me chaps." And I used to say, he said, "No, I'm not doing that." And I loved it. But we used to have some very, very funny times. And and like Al Caswell, what a great writer, and has written some great stuff.
He's incredible.
Mate, I did a thing called All Gave Some, which Jamie did with me on the film clip. But Alan wrote that and rang me up. He said, "Col, you're a vet. I want you to have this." And I just love it. I love Dean Martin. I love Bublé. I used to love Dinah Lee, and I used to tour with all those guys. You know.
Well, if you could have been anything else but a comedian, what do you reckon you'd be doing? Like because you've gone to the heights. There's nothing else you could achieve as a comedian. But if you could have been in another field, or
I would have liked to pursue more acting, I think.
Yeah.
Because I've done some film work and whatever, and I've got an agent and all the rest of it. But I was offered, and I tell you, there's a funny little thing. I was offered a part many years ago, in the Sullivans.
Yeah.
And I was offered a 10-week film thing. But Bernie and I were on the middle of a tour and couldn't do it. So I didn't do it. And Michael Caton got the job. And I went, why didn't I take that? Why didn't I take that? I love Michael Caton. I love him.
Absolutely.
But he did the gig. And he was the uncle in the Sullivans. But I was offered that gig. And that's my claim to fame. I nearly got it. But I loved dramatic acting. I enjoy showing the other side. I can cry on cue if you kick me, you know. But no, I can do a serious side. But comedy, I love comedy. But people do need to laugh, and I go out there and I try and give them a night off. They want to laugh. I do a little bit of political stuff, but it's funny political stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not meant to offend.
No.
So I do take the mick. And sometimes, and I watch people just break up with it because it's obvious stuff, but you can't make it too obvious. You've got to surprise them. They've got to have a tag.
Just before we go quickly, we've run out of time, but just a quick one, Col. There's a saying that's quite famous around people who's done supports and toured with you. Chookers.
Chookers.
On the road.
Mate, thank you very, very much for that. Chookers, okay. You know where they come from?
No, tell everyone.
Okay.
I do, but yeah, you tell everyone.
You do know everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, back in the old days, in the 1900s and whatever, when they do a show, if the show was successful and they would have chicken after the show, and they'd say chookers for the show, because they would get a feed of chicken.
Yep.
Like, I mean, now you can go to Col, with $10 you can go down to Col. $12 now, geez, they're going up, aren't they? But in those days, roast chicken was very big deal, you know, and that's what chookers come from.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I always say it to, you know, chookers, mate, you know.
But I even know I was doing a tour with Jamie Davis, and you said chookers for tonight, boys.
Yeah.
And it's just a part of what you do, and it's such a kind thing, but it means more than just a saying.
It does.
Yeah.
But I'm not real big time into technology, but I do understand. I'm a bit past emails now, but I'm a bit past those sort of things. But I'm following Facebook, and it's all so different. I remember
different world.
Back in the day, I'm doing a radio interview, and I've got a roadie behind me feeding 2 bobs, 20 cents, into the thing. Press button A. Hello, hey, there's Col here. Yeah, push button. And that's how you did your. Yeah. There was no phones, none of that sort of stuff. Now you can't go anywhere without your phone.
It's everything. It's everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So no, I was very fortunate. I've toured with some and worked with some beautiful people, and yourself. I'm not peeing in your pocket, but we complement each other because I love the way you play guitar. I just
thank you, mate.
I can't believe you can do it upside down. I think it's just amazing. But you're a great picker, and when you've got someone behind you, it's easy to blow harp to.
Yeah,
you can because you can pick up on the beat and all the rest of it. And I love good guitarists and love good musos, and I really do. There's a lot of people that I do love in country music that Kenny Rogers. I mean, George Strait. I think. Got to be Amarillo by morning. My God, how
one of the greatest songs,
isn't it? You know,
Cowboy Rides Away.
Yeah. I just love all that stuff. And I, in fact, if you go in my car, you listen to George Strait all the way. The Beatles, I listen to the Bee Gees. I go right across the board, and I love country. Country music's great. I love country.
And you always put a lot of that into your show. I know whoever you get generally does country songs. It's not, you know, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Well, Col, it's been a real pleasure having you here today, mate. Honestly, from a personal point, I mean everything I say.
Thanks, mate.
There's nothing more you could achieve. I love how you've done it and kept your family together.
Oh, I love my family.
But like we missed one thing. Something like 15 or 16 or 17 years. You were the backbone of the Golden Guitar Awards.
I did open it, and I used
and
to
in between all the ads,
and I used to do all that. And then everything changed. A new television person, and they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm leaving." But everything changed. But everything does change too. And I'm getting old, but I still, it's funny, I always say this, you still feel young, and I still feel like I'm bloody 30 and I ain't.
But you still got the energy, you still got the love for your craft.
Oh, I love it.
Cole's still out on the road doing great stuff. Make sure you get onto YouTube and follow him. Get along, he's got some great recordings coming out soon, original stuff, and he's been talking about it. And wonderful shows, still great shows. If you want good fun, go along.
$30 now. He's done well. $30.
I'll give you 25 back for saying I'm good.
Not a bad picker. That's $5. But good on you, Waddo.
Thanks, Cole.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Love you, bro.
Col Elliott, one of our best ever. Thanks, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed today's episode. For more episodes, you can check out my YouTube channel or the podcast app and follow my social media at Lindsay Waddington Music. See you all down the track somewhere.